Yo, how is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of Beared Down Uncut, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Do you expect the Bears to finish top 16 in the league in 2020? We're going to be answering this question and more when it comes to Uncut episode 32 today. Welcome back to the show, guys. This is really an impromptu episode of Uncut, but there's a horrible take by Matt Miller that we have to respond to, and we're going to do some deep digging today to uncover some stuff about what he said. I am your host, Chris Malpe. Today, I am joined by my co-host, Zach Rimbos. He is also the video producer and editor at Beared Down. Zach, before you say anything about this take, how are you doing today at 2:42 in the afternoon?
Doing pretty well. It's a decent day outside downtown Chicago, so.
Welcome back to episode 23, I believe this is, Jordan episode of Beared Down Uncut, and it's going to be a really fun one today because I expect that this is going to turn into a rant. So, basically how this all started. Matt Miller tweeted out this morning that the Bears were going to be the second worst team in the league. Oh my goodness, I am barfing. And he also just said that Chicago and the Rams have the two worst offensive lines in the league. I still don't think that's a thing. I still think our line is going to finish top 25, top 20. I don't think it's one of the best in the league by any regards. He also just came out and said that Matt Nagy will be fired at the end of this season. Really bold predictions there for Matt Miller of Bleacher Report, someone who I normally actually trust. I don't trust that many people over at Bleacher Report, but when it comes to draft takes and stuff, I expect Matt Miller to be a little bit better. Zach, give me your reaction to this take and be honest with me. You know, we had Mike Clay a couple days ago say the Bears were going to be 6-10. That was ridiculous. But is this the worst take of the offseason in regards to the Bears?
By far, it's not even close. I mean, you're talking about, it's fair to criticize the Bears offense, but you're talking about a defense that even in a year they regressed, quote unquote. They finished number 1 in points allowed in the NFC and top 10. Like, it doesn't make sense. You're talking about a defense that had Leonard Floyd, got the addition of Robert Quinn, who almost broke the sack record one year. 19 sacks in 2013. He's an all-pro. And it makes no sense. You get Jaylen Johnson, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the draft.
That only slipped because slipped because of his injuries.
Exactly. And he played an entire season with a torn labrum, still lit up really, really good receivers in this draft.
Like Brandon Ayuk and Michael Pittman.
Exactly.
We don't have to get into many specific players here. I think we can both agree that this is an absolutely horrible take. You look at the Bears in 2019, we talked to players like Pat Scales and Prince Amukamara, and they'll admit that they were a couple of plays away, an Eddie Pinheiro kick and maybe a stop against the Raiders, away from being 10-6 and in the playoffs. It's absolutely ridiculous to me. Akeem Hicks is going to be healthy. I think he was one of the reasons that contributed to the team finishing 8-8. But I think with this defense, you look at them, compare them to the 2018 defense, there's so much depth there. And the offense, obviously, they bring in Foles for the competition. Whoever's at quarterback, the weapons on offense have improved regardless. Obviously, either Mitch takes a step or Foles steps in. We upgrade the tight end position that was one of the worst in the league in 2019. We add a speedy receiver or two to replace Taylor Gabriel. I think this is just absolutely absurd.
It makes no sense. You can't have a top defense and finish bottom 2 in the league. That just
literally the Bears secondaries on defense but the Bears defense carried them to that record last year, and with even a subpar offense, you assume that's a winning record.
We could literally almost lose multiple games because of the offense and still be a good team because of our defense. Like it's not how that works. It's not like Detroit's defense is good and their offense is bad and they win games because that's not.
Yeah, you're looking at Matt Miller, a guy who has had some really good takes throughout time, but he also is the same guy who gave a pro comparison of Blake Bortles to Patrick Mahomes in the 2017 NFL draft. And I also think the idea of Nagy getting fired after the season is ridiculous.
Oh, that's crazy too.
So, Zach, let me ask you this first question. Regardless, this season could go absolutely terrible. That being said, do you think there's any chance that after this season that Matt Nagy gets fired?
No, he was hired in 2018. Like it just he hasn't. I mean, it's 2 years ago. It makes no sense. If anybody is out, it's
It's
going. We
Pace
talked about this before. It's going to be Pace. He was hired, came in
for the
2015, had
2015.
his
Yeah.
first draft in 2015, and we talked about all the picks and stuff like that. We don't need to go into depth with that, but it makes no sense. How would Nagy be the one out when
Yeah. I mean,
he
I think
was the
we're
guy who was the coach of the year in 2018? Led a team, was the head coach of a team that went 12-4,
made the playoffs easily. Unfortunately,
Shit,
didn't go as well as we wanted
one
it to.
one play away, 3 inches away from
the
going
divisional
possibly
round
to the Super Bowl, even.
at least the NFC Championship, I would think.
At least NFC Championship.
I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. I'm pretty sure we're both bamboozled by this take right now. I think there's no way that Nagy goes. Obviously, I think if the quarterbacks don't end up working in 2020, and that's what I would probably attribute to having a season so bad, you would want to give Nagy a shot with a rookie quarterback in 2021. This is just absolutely ridiculous. I don't even know what to say at this point. But Zach, I'm going to ask you another question. I mean, do you expect the Bears to finish in the top half of the league in 2020?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were 8-8 last year. We got more pieces to the offense. The defense, I think, got even better than last year. I don't see us either. Like you're saying, it could go either horribly wrong or we could have a great season. I see it great season on the side of having a great season just because of all the pieces we added. It only makes sense. I think that they have a hunger now, like a drive to want to be the best in our league. I mean, after last season disappointing, and they gotta step up, and this is their year. So
I think I'm not going to say there's no way that the Bears don't finish top 16 in the league, but with the depth on this defense, if the offense can be mediocre, I'm saying the offense was bad last year. If they can be subpar, if they can be competent, I think the Bears finish top 16 in 2020. This defense is top 5, top 3, top 1 in the league, if not, the best. And the depth is there. I mean, you look, they add Trevis Gibson, they bring back Danny Trevathan. Akeem Hicks is healthy. Bilal Nichols is still there. They add Jaylen Johnson. They add to Sean Gibson for a veteran's minimum deal. I mean, this is ridiculous. So, Zach, one more question for you before we close this one off. Say all havoc does break loose in 2020 and the Bears finish very poorly, lower than all of our expectations. What would it actually take for them to finish second worst in the league, like Matt Miller said? I mean, I think it's crazy that I'm even posing this question.
Oh man, what would have to happen for that?
I think just horrible quarterback play.
I would say a lot
injuries, a ton of injuries.
We had horrible quarterback play last season. What would have to happen for this season would be we can't get Eddie can't hit any kicks.
Tons of injuries on defense.
All of our defense goes down. Jimmy Graham gets injured. Cole Kmet is not producing.
Nick Foles can't play. Trubisky can't play.
Allen Robinson goes down with a broken leg. Anthony Miller
hurts his shoulder again.
Anthony Miller hurts his shoulder. Yeah, literally anything that could go wrong would have to go wrong for this team to finish bottom 2 in the league, and it's without question.
I mean,
everything would have to go wrong.
I hate to say this, but I wouldn't mind a top 2 pick. But that being said, I feel like the Bears can still trade up in the 2021 NFL draft and get a really good quarterback. But I agree with Zach to a pin. I mean, you would need terrible quarterback play, terrible offensive line yet again. Defense goes down and becomes... I don't see any way this defense becomes one of the worst in the league. But you would need so many marquee players to go down on defense in order for this team to, not be able to stop opponents and stay out of games and end up losing games. Also, I agree, the kicking situation would need to be pretty bad. This is just ridiculous, man. I don't think I've ever come on for a podcast and actually been so mad at a take. Yeah. Well, that's pretty much going to do it for episode 23 of Uncut. Thank you guys for joining us. We didn't expect to record this, but feel like we had to come on after that horrible take by Matt Miller. I don't think there's any way that they finish second worst in the league. Much less Matt Nagy gets fired after this year. I don't see that happening whatsoever. Thank you for joining us, though. If you want more content from us, head over to bearddown.com. If you are still listening, we will be doing a live stream tonight reacting to the release of the Bears' 2020 schedule, so that'll be a lot of fun. Come join us at 6 p.m. Central Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for that one. And that's pretty much it for us. You can find the links to all of our social media down in the description. You can also find the podcast on Instagram and Twitter at Beared Down. Zach, any last words on what we think about Matt Miller? You have no words. You literally have no words.
Yeah, I'm lost for words. Yeah. I think this is by far the worst. And I mean, you can take it to an extent. Like, the Bears can be bad, but it makes zero sense to come out and say something like that. It doesn't even matter. Our offense could practically not step on the field, and we would still be a winning team.
We could have Khalil Mack at quarterback. But Thank you very much for tuning in, guys. It's been a pleasure to be your host for this rant of an episode, I guess you would call it. I've been your host, Chris Malpe. Thank you so much for joining us. Do us a favor, subscribe, smash a like on this video, and be sure to click the bell for notifications whenever we post. That's going to do it for us, though. And as always, Chicago, stay safe and bear down. My goodness, I am mad, but I'm going to say peace. Have a good one, guys. See ya.